You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
And welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I am Chad Holmes, joined by former Newman Catholic head boys basketball coach Jeff Gress.
It's good to be back. We sound better. Hopefully, people listening. I think we're kicking this.
I think we're getting towards the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Sadly, too, with all the schedules coming out, sports ending. We'll talk about that.
I know.
Go ahead though.
But coming up tonight at 6:25, our coach guest for this week from the defending state champion and second-ranked Central Wisconsin Storm, Jana Wimmer. Now, going to talk about getting the number one seed, talk about their season up to this point. They have themselves a massive game Saturday night that we will have live right here on 98.9 WXCO. They will wrap up their regular season at number one ranked Bay Area. I'll be at Cornerstone in Ashwaubenon for that one. 7:20 airtime on Saturday night. A rematch of a thrilling state championship game from a year ago. Interesting timing here. I'm going to talk to her about that because obviously could face them again in a couple of weeks' time at the state tournament. So we'll talk to Jana Wimmer coming up at 6:25. And then we'll get a lot more with Jeff Gress because unfortunately we had a late cancellation. Have not been able to rearrange for a student-athlete guest this week. Had some lines in the water, waiting for the bite, and unfortunately not able to get anything secured here this evening. So perhaps try to double up next week and try to get back as we get down towards the end of our season. It's hard to believe. We got about a month ago here, a little more than a month ago.
Yeah, looking on, doing research for the show, you look on that and you see some teams have one more game this weekend and they're done, and it's too quick. It's sad to see that it's winding down.
And coming up, we'll talk about what's going on in high school girls and boys basketball, and also going to look at the brackets for the hockey tournament that begins next week. The seeding meetings were held. And different than the basketball, the coaches actually still vote for it on the hockey side. So we'll look at that coming up as well. But let's jump right in. Boys high school basketball, Wisconsin Valley Conference still, it looks like Marshfield is on their way to a conference title. Undefeated, 8-0 in the conference, 12-5 overall. Then two-way tie for second. You got Wausau West, 6-3 in the league, 15-5 overall. Stevens Point, 6-3 in the conference, 13-7 overall. Then a tie for fourth between DC Everest and Wausau East, both at 4-5 in the conference. Evergreen's 10-10 overall. Lumberjacks 14-5. And then Merrill and Wisconsin Rapids 1-7 in the conference, 9-10 for Merrill, 2-15 for Wisconsin Rapids. And I guess looking at the conference, let's start off. Congratulations, Wisconsin Rapids, because they beat East at East on Friday, 75-69, and then they liked winning so much, they came back and did it again on Monday, beating Chippewa Falls 57-45. Again, I think for those kids, really good stuff.
Well, it's a big deal. It's easy to, I don't know, so many times in life nowadays you see just, I like to see the old school work ethic, and we keep dogfighting until we get it right. We keep battling through any adversity that we have till we get what we want out of it. And I think that goes a long way, and that's kind of what this process is all about from their time growing up here and being part of a high school athletic program. I think I like the fight in it, and I like the fact that they're keeping at it. And one thing, talking to just being at some games or youth practices or youth tournaments and running into some of these high school coaches, many of them said that they weren't sure why Rapids hasn't gotten the W yet, but they all said that we don't want them to get the W against us because they knew they had that capabilities of being that team, that they're still a good basketball team, that they just have to put some pieces together or maybe get something tweaked a little bit. So I guess good for them to fight the good fight. They're on the 2-game winning streak, and that can roll a little bit into the end of your season if you can keep it rolling. I mean, they've shown that they are right now at this moment.
And also, I'd say the best week as well with Rapids would be Stevens Point. They beat Merrill 77-27 on Friday. Balance 4 players between 13 and 15 points for Spash that night. Then they went down to Pfizer Forum on Saturday, played a good Sun Prairie East team. Spash took the lead. Sun Prairie East came back, took the lead in the second half, and then Spash won it 79-73. Grant Shadana 26, Jaden Awi 17. Jaron Seas 15, Baraka McAleen 13. Again, 4 players in double digits. Sun Prairie East has a terrific player, Chris Davis Jr. at 30 points. It was fun to watch him play. And then they just took it to East. And obviously, without Jesse Napkazik right now, should be back soon for East. But tough week for the Lumberjacks. And Monday, Spash all over them, 81-38. First, Stevens Point, obviously, that's a great week. It shows that right now that maybe that this team is starting to come together a little bit. They got obviously great talent, and then for East, obviously not a great week.
Well, and you start with Spash. They to go. I listened to that game a little bit against Sun Prairie East to kind of see what's because my son was raving about the Division I player that's on Sun Prairie East, so we wanted to check him out, and for them to go down in that environment, down to Fires of Forum, what a cool. I think it was like a little miniature tournament, right?
Well, it was a showcase.
I mean,
all days of
teams coming game basketball. Now I shouldn't say a tournament because
I think 4 games or something like that.
But what a cool place to play in, a cool atmosphere for high school basketball. And so for Spash, we talk about this. Players come back from injury. Players come back for various reasons and get back into the regular roster, get back into the routine. It takes some time, and that's. Still, I think yet to still be shown. To Spash have that consistently with Awi now in the rotation and playing and starting lineup. Is he going to be that missing factor they need to take that step, to take that jump, to get through some of these teams that they're going to play down the stretch, as well as what they're going to see in the playoffs? It'll be a good test, I think, when Marshfield's coming up right away in the rotation here. In fact, tomorrow night, and I think that's going to be a big deal. But they set a statement against a scrappy, tough-nosed Merrill team to get that margin of victory, the game at the Pfizer Forum. And then I know, East, Nebgezik is out due to his illness, but they're still a very good basketball team. They're
let me jump in real fast. You've been around this. You've had years where maybe you had ups and downs during the season, but right now, late in the season, what do you think East has to focus on?
Well, I think it's just getting. It's just next man up logic. One of the things with the East roster was the players that are going to come at you and control the basketball game. We talked about how they can put points in bundles and the record that they've had, and it's kind of having to step up and fill those voids. And as it goes out, he's averaging over 20 points a game, and he's kind of a central focus of what the other team's going to try to get after and change his reps. And I think what it takes is those guys because he's coming back, so it's just to weather that storm throughout the games so that you can still hit the ground running when he gets back. So who's going to step up? What are we going to take over? How are we going to improve little things? Because you never know. I had a player one year, we could win our first playoff game. We were doing solid. He sprains his ankle in practice the night before the game, and he's out for the whole week of those playoffs. So you want to make sure you have that person with next guy up mentality, and that players are ready and willing to do what it takes, whether it's to tweak or change the roles or just to take on more responsibility. And that has to be done as a collection of groups. So as coaches, that's what I'm preaching, that we have to fight through this. We have to make it. And it will, at the end of the day, I think it makes you stronger because all those players have to step up, and it strengthens how they can play on the floor. And then when players that are injured or out due to illness or for whatever factor come back, you just kind of try to hit the ground rolling with them. So it's kind of weathering the storm, so to speak.
DC Everson, Wausau West did the game on Friday. Everest beat West 63-55. A huge night for Xavier Edwards. 32 points, 8 rebounds. Colin Preby, 9 points, but all 3 of his 3-pointers were critical in that game. Griffin Lang, 13. Karji Cooper and Miles Walvogel, 12 each for the Warriors. Really good win for Everest. I thought West got the short end on a few drives to the hole. It was a real tight game. But then West, a really nice bounce back last night. And I was talking to Coach Lemons after the game Friday, and every time this season that West has had a hiccup, they bounce back big time. And they did it last night against Wittenberg-Burnham, a team that had only lost 2 games all season, winning on the road, low-scoring affair, 45-36. And Everest last night played a pretty good Hortonville squad. Hortonville 13-6 from the FVA, beat Everest 70-67. But I think for both those teams, I think both teams are still in a pretty good spot. I think West consistently this year, and now Everest back to full strength, starting to grow as well.
Yeah, and for West, no, they had to go over to Everest and play over there. It's a tough-nosed team. Preby just makes them a whole different level of how they play. You know, he's the distributor. He can get the ball as other scores wherever he wants, and just that tough-nosed guard with grit, kid that's got a lot of experience and leadership. And I think that they're going to continue to get stronger as the season progresses. So it's not a bad loss. You don't want to take any loss, but it's not a bad loss because it's a good basketball team and you had to take it on the road. I think what's impressive is, like you said, with the West bounce back, the amount of times we're talking about teams having like 3-4 guys in double digits. And to go take a team like Wittenberg-Burnham, who's had a very good season, and hold them to 36 points
in their house.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. You got Rognowski on that team who puts up 27 a game. I mean, so to go keep that 36 points in somebody else's gym is a big deal for West. For Everest, I think just continuing to get stronger. Playing the Fox Valley Association, losing to Hortonville by 3, that's, again, not a bad loss. And they're going to step outside again, back outside and back into the conference here in the next coming weeks. I think you're going to see, we've talked about, what I want to see is this when we get to playoffs, because we've talked about this Valley being a very strong conference, and then we've seen over the years where when they're maybe not as strong, they bow out to some of those teams that are in from the other areas of the state. I'm looking forward to seeing them take down a bunch of those teams in those opening round games and stuff, just because I think there's a lot of strength here in this conference, and I think they can do that this year.
And Merrill coming down to the stretch of their membership in the WVEC. I found it interesting. They lost by a big margin. They won by a big margin. And I said it. They fell to Spash 77-27, but Monday night, Corey Page, 20 points, 4 players in double figures, and they beat Tomahawk 85-24. And unlike many of the teams in this conference, I don't know many, but most of the teams D1, they'll be D2. So obviously getting well tested. They're 9-10 overall. I'm not sure, again, about Merrill at this point. They will play at West in the final game of the regular season. Looking forward to seeing that one. But what are your thoughts on Merrill?
Well, you just, from us judging it from the outside in, especially me, not seeing a lot of their games except for early in the year when I watched them play Newman, and there's another one in there I saw in a conference game. I think they have this grittiness about them. You know, Coach Pieper gets them to play with that toughness, that edge. You see this physicality when they take the floor, and they have some scorers in Page and Wykes and guys that can put the ball in the basket. So I'm thinking they're one of those teams that, you know, they're going to be in the middle of the pack there. They're based on their record for that region, but a team that could sneak up on you, a team that based on the scores we've seen with the Evandale, a team that can fill it up, a team that can have some grittiness defensively and give that other team some problems as they go forward. And I think I only think it helps based on what I've seen over my time in Central Wisconsin with basketball, is that when you play in these conferences, you're playing against teams that are divisions higher. You really get yourself tested, and I think it makes you stronger for playoffs when that stuff happens. So I think it's a big deal to play divisions higher and then slide down when you go into your playoff regional. Great
Northern Conference, quite a battle at the top. 3 teams with 2 losses. Medford and Rhinelander 7-2 in the conference. Mosinee 6-2. Medford 11-8. 13-5 Rhinelander, Mosinee 14-6, Pines 5-5 in the league, 11-9, Lakeland 4-6, 8-12, Antigo 3-6, 9-10, Tomahawk 0-9, 4-16. This week, not a lot of competitive games in the Great Northern Conference.
But a great competitive battle at the top.
At the top, yeah, but none of these teams were playing each other.
Right.
And everybody was basically taking care of business. I thought maybe the most impressive performance was Mosinee last night, beating Pines by 32 points, 69-37. Braden Reinke, 25. Sebastian Anderson and Carson Balgord, 14. Treve Stoffel, 11 for Mosinee. But everybody else was basically doing big things as well in that conference.
Yeah,
winning the games they need to win.
Right, exactly, and that's sometimes what it takes to stay consistently. I think it's going to be fun down the stretch here to see where these teams finish out. You got Mosinee just a game behind in the win column because they haven't played as many games, and Rhinelander and Medford hanging at the top. And I think it's anybody's game on who stays healthiest, who finishes out down the stretch with consistent play on the offensive and defensive end. And I like you said, no big games every team was expected to win, but I think Mosinee made a little statement because Pines has shown that they can play with a lot of these teams, and to go just totally keep them in check and beat them by that margin, I think was a good victory for Mosinee. So I think that top there can still be a little jockeying with the short amount of season we have left.
And Merriwood Conference South, you got Auburndale hanging on at the top at 11-1 in the league, 18-1 overall. Stratford at 10-2 in the conference, 17-2 overall. Marathon 9-3 in league, 12-7 overall. Assumption 5-7, 6-14. Edgar 5-7 in conference, 7-12 overall. Newman 2-10 in league, 4-15 overall. Had a night of crossovers with the Merriwood North on Friday, 3-3. 3 wins for the top teams in the conference. Marathon beat Abbotsford 64-56. Stratford over Shawamigan 50-34. Auburndale beat Prentice 59-45. But then the other games won by the North. Rib Lake beat Newman 63-53. Phillips over Edgar 57-50. Athens edged Assumption 65-64. And then maybe the other interesting games that jumped out. Stratford keeping up again, playing very solid, good non-conference win against Black River Falls. I know have been in the past they've somebody that they would see in the postseason. I think 69-50, and then last night Pacelli edged Marathon 49-48, and another good non-conference road test for Marathon. But what jumped out in terms of what is going on in the Merriwood South?
Well, just I guess looking at that comparison factor I was talking about between the Merriwood North and the Merriwood South, the top teams in the Merriwood South still tend to seem to be keeping their position up. They still seem to claim any wins they always need against the North, where the North does seem to be getting a little stronger. It's getting consistent against those other teams in the South at the bottom half of that conference and getting those W's. And I like that evening out because I think that's a big deal going forward when these conference games mean something and continue to be a big deal where you don't want to stub your toe, so to speak. I haven't seen all the teams play, and one of the teams was Rib Lake against Newman. I watched one of the nights, and it was kind of interesting to see the way they play, the way they get up and down the floor, shoot through. So it's showing that those games are evening out there. I think for Stratford, they've always done a good job of scheduling teams in their non-conference schedule because they have, I think they're D4 this year, but they've slid into D3, and they tend to play some of those schools that are on the fringe of being 3-4, and so the win against Blackfoot River Falls was good. Marathon, not taking anything. It's a tough 1-point loss for Jacobson and his team. But again, they went out and tested the waters. They went on the road. They went against a potential team you could possibly see at some point, and unfortunately came up on the short end. So I think some interesting matchups down there. I'm looking to see when they get back into some more of their conference play to see if there can be anything up at the top, because we're getting slim on those games. There's a couple ones coming up.
And it's interesting, again, where I forget if it was Auburndale or Stratford, maybe even both. I'm not even sure. They play the other top teams in the conference the final week after the seedings are out.
Right.
Again, it's always interesting because these teams have the potential of playing each other again coming up in the postseason as well. And then Merriwood North, Rib Lake, as you said, right now first place, 10-2, heading towards a conference championship, 14-5 overall. Phillips 7-5, 13-6. Prentice 6-6, 11-6. Athens 4-8 in conference, 5-14 overall. Abbotsford 2-10, 7-12. Shawamigan 1-11, 3-16. But you said it, that Rib Lake, it's not a mirage that they're doing that well this year.
No, they beat Newman on Friday, beat Colby on Monday. They'll be tested next week or this week, at the end of this week against Stratford. But the Henderson kid could shoot the ball well. He's averaging 17, 18 points a game. And I was impressed with the the way Riv Lake got out and kind of set up the floor, their spacing, the way they took it to the basket as well as they were ready to square up on their jump shots. And they just really seemed to move the ball with a purpose as much as they were going to, grit and bear it and grit their teeth a little bit and dig their feet in on the defensive end and try to keep you out of the paint. So I thought, and make you take a shot that's a little bit off balance. So I thought they'll be interesting to see where they end up. They're definitely showing that they own that conference, and at 10-2, I think it's theirs.
We're going to talk more basketball a little bit later on, but coming up in 1 minute, we're going to be talking some hockey. Our coach guest for this week from the Central Wisconsin Storm having another outstanding year. We'll be talking to Jana Wimmer. Again, the Big High School Sports Show brought to you by K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in Central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Jana Wimmer of the Storm coming up here on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.com, WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And again, if you missed the show, any of our shows, you can go back and listen as a podcast at WXCO.FM or by subscribing on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast. And very happy to welcome back to the program head hockey coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm, proudly wearing the champs sweatshirt, Jana Wimmer. Jana, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so far this season, I've had a chance to see your team a number of times, and 19-3, and obviously it's a different team, but in a sense, a lot of the same pieces. It's I don't know, unusual, but that's not the way to put it. But when you look at your state championship team from a year ago, you're missing both your goaltenders and the leading scorer, but yet you still had a lot back as well. A little dichotomy in terms of not a rebuild, but missing some big pieces as well. How did you look at it going into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, kind of like you alluded to, we knew coming in that we were going to obviously lose Tristan and, lose a quality defenseman in Maddie DePoint and, some senior leadership that we had. And it was, obviously, as you know, a last minute kind of thing with our goaltending situation, an unfortunate one at that. So, that was something that I don't think any of us were really prepared for. Right. And, obviously weren't super thrilled about it at the time. And any time that, you lose a quality senior, a quality goaltender to things outside of their control, is hard on everybody. But, we've had two freshmen that have answered a bell that I don't think that they were prepared to, that they didn't know they were going to have to step up to this year. Obviously we thought we'd maybe have a backup goalie in Ilsa too, and she got a chance to play with the Chicago Mission. So, you went from having probably the best goalie in the state, an all-state goalie, and a very, very quality backup to you're looking at two freshmen on day one of practice. And I just can't say enough about how hard they've worked. They've pushed each other throughout the year. I think it's made our whole team, though, step up a little bit and rally around them, too. I mean, giving up only 12 shots to Superior, I think, was something pretty fantastic. So you can just see that we're blocking a lot more shots this year. I think our D zone stepped up a little bit this year, kind of just knowing that difference you were going to have. And, When you looked at coming in this season, you knew we had that super talented senior group, and you were going to ride and die by them. And, they've answered the bell. We've had, a bunch of other kids that have stepped up. Like I said, our freshman goalies have stepped up, and I'm super proud of the way that they've grown throughout the year, especially with some of the unknowns that I think we all sat and faced the first couple weeks.
Real quickly before you jump in, Jeff, he's a coach, you're a coach. One thing you hate is the unexpected. You have plans. You go through the offseason, getting ready, and I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but how did you handle it? How did you and your coaches, before even getting to the kids, when you found out, number one, that Ilsa was not coming back, and then obviously losing Claire even later, how did you try to get through that in order to have the least amount of disruption possible?
Obviously, as a coaching staff, we talked a lot about it, and I was able to talk to some other coaches that knew, both the girls that were coming in as freshmen pretty well, and just kind of get a feel for them, for their personalities, and how they were going to fit in, how they were they going to be able to answer that bell. You're coming into the defending state championship program, and all of a sudden it probably feels like you have the weight on your, the weight of the world on your shoulders as well, that you weren't exactly maybe prepared for as a 14-year-old girl. So I got the chance to talk with both of them. We gave Claire the opportunity to tell the team at that moment about her situation, and got the chance to talk to our freshman goalies, and it's been a constant conversation throughout the year. It's the two of them for 4 years, competing against each other, but hopefully supporting each other and pushing each other, and that's kind of been the message that we've had all year. So I think that everyone handled it well. It was conversations from the coaching staff down to the captains to the seniors, and kind of on down. And once it was addressed, and once you knew that that's what was happening, we didn't have to talk about it much again. It was, this is what it is. This is where we are, and we can rise to this challenge, and we can support them, and they can step up and do their best, and that's all you can ask. And I really feel like that's what the whole team has done from top to bottom.
And now that Chad took my one hockey question, because that's all my knowledge was, I was going to ask about the difficulty, because it's so unlike any. It's not like other sports. Like if you're coaching basketball, unless injury or sickness, your team's there. Those kids, and most of the time, are there throughout the whole season, and they're not leaving for different reasons that are earlier because of other opportunities. So it sounds like there's been a lot of reflection, a lot of conversation, and I think that that's a testament to how the effort from the coaches, how well you know your kids, the success that you've reaped because of that. I guess my biggest thing is, what do you really like about this team right now? Because you guys have held it together. You're in a great spot. Did you say number one seed? Sorry, just checking to make sure I'm sorry. Number one seed. So you guys have done outstanding despite the things you've had to battle through. And hopefully always people from all aspects of the program appreciate that level of effort, because if you're in the mix of it, it's not always easy to balance all that. So what do you really like about this team right now that you guys are doing very well?
I think they're playing really great hockey. I think that they've all, it's so different, and it's something that actually we talked about before our Superior game. It's a different group of girls, and it's like you get that obviously every team every year. You have the different group, and trying to figure out how they gel and how they vibe can be such a challenge. And our group last year was a little bit more serious and a little bit more, just zoned in a little bit differently. And I looked at these girls that practiced before our Superior game at Greenheck, and they were like so tense. And this is not a tense group. And we turned on music and we played 3-on-3 for the last 15 minutes. Like they just need to have fun. They play better when they are loose. They play better when they're laughing. They play better when they're joking. And as a coach and as me as a person, it goes against everything that I do. Like I am a serious, like, let's be quiet, let's focus person. But that's just not how this group works. They're having dance parties in the locker room and they're having fun. They're getting along really well, which for 29 high school girls says a lot. They have their moments that we all do, but they've got along. They've figured out kind of just what makes them tick, and it's being loose. It's having fun. It's having fun playing the game, and I think that just speaks volumes to what they've done. That's what they've done all year. They've gone out. They've been loose. They've answered the bell, but they've been ready to go in their own way, and they've been playing really good hockey. I feel like the last 2 weeks we've moved the puck as well as we have all year. Obviously we've changed up lines here and there, and I don't know, maybe we'll try something again in the next couple of days before we hit playoffs. But they're communicating well, they're getting along well, and it's all just translating to how they're playing on the ice.
And actually, real fast. It brings up an interesting point because you mentioned the fact that because you played that game now, you found out something about this group. They did get tense beforehand. Sometimes when I look at your schedule, I'm thinking, well, is it a good thing to play Superior so late because you could play them again? Is it a good thing to play Bay Area again in the last game of the season and then maybe play them again? It sounds like you learned something there that maybe you're going to be able to use in another pressure situation coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I definitely think we did, and it's something I think I've kind of known, but it was the first time in a long time we've had a big game with kind of a lot on the line. It's obviously the number 1 seed in the section was on the line. You knew that this was a team you're probably going to have to beat to get to state, a team that is anywhere ranked between 1 and 3 with us the whole year, a team that we upset last year. So it was the first time that I felt like there was really a lot riding on one game, and we had talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and it just kind of I just felt tension, like they were so focused on it, which was a good thing, and in my mind it was a good thing, but for them, they just needed to let loose a little bit and just have fun, and that's what this group has kind of been all about. So I think we learned a lot. I think we learned a lot in preparation for the game, and I think we learned a lot in the game too. And I think it's good to play these games late in the year, kind of see where you're at. Our game was Superior. We had, like I said, a lot on the line, so it was definitely, I think, everyone's trying to win that game. Now Superior and Hayward play again. They play tomorrow night in the regular season, and then they're probably going to see each other in 2 weeks. And now after your seeding meeting, and after that, that's kind of a different ball game, I think, in my mind. Green Bay will be a good test. There's a little bit on the line with if both teams make it to state, possible that number 1 seed at the state tournament. But it's a good chance for us to play another quality team. I like playing these hard games as you get kind of into the playoffs, as you get hopefully preparing for possibly a run through the state tournament and seeing where you're at and knowing where you need to be.
And just double checking if boys and girls are the same. It's all face to face yet for the seeding meetings.
Yes.
Yet.
Yep.
So that's leading me to that. Do you like that? Would you ever want to see it go a route with the computer system where you get tossed in there and that figures out where you stand, or would you always want to keep the face to face if you got your choice?
If I got my choice, I like how we do it. I get why some of the other sports do it. They have more teams, they have probably more variables, and when you get into the everyone challenging for the next one, I think it can make for a long day. We are fortunate that ours are usually, even this year it was pretty cut and dry. It was. Went around the table, everyone got their couple minutes, and it was...
You play each other.
We've all played each other. We all, we've all done the head-to-head. I think we all respect each other, too, especially in those top 4 seeds that we were looking at. We only had one challenge and it was a valid one. But I think there's a mutual respect too of, hey, when the Superior coach was walking out of the rink on Saturday, he said, I'll see you tomorrow. Congrats on the 1 seed, and he came in and said he was the 2. And there's no fighting over things like that. And I think that's just a respect, that we all have for each other and the quality of the teams that are in our section. You're going through right now 2, 3, and 4 in the state, for one shot for one team to make it to the state tournament. So I think from my perspective, I like it. I think it's nice you get a chance to talk about your season too. Like next year, we're supposed to be put in a conference, and we're going to have our strength of schedule is going to be less because of that, but it's not really a choice that we have either. So I think when you get the chance to kind of tell a story a little bit, look at some of it and have those conversations when and if they needed to be had, I think it's great. And I think you put it in a computer, and I think DC Everest football was a prime example of exactly what can happen when you do that too. So obviously you can generate a strength of schedule, and it's easy to do that, and goal differential or point differential or any of those type of things, and see where everyone lines up. But I think the coaches know where people are. You've played the teams, and I think if you can have people that have mutual respect for each other and can have a conversation about it, that it seems to be the best way to go.
Talking again to Jana Wimmer, head hockey coach of the Central Wisconsin Storm, here on 98.9 WXCO. Let's talk about some of your players. Let's start with I usually would start at the back and move forward, but let's talk, because this year you're scoring a lot of goals. And I think sometimes people get surprised when you're scoring a lot of goals. You got 2 girls that probably you have scored more. What was the old record for goals in a season for the Storm going into this year?
It was 32.
Oh, so Jaden's not quite there, but she still has a chance to get there. Yeah. You got Gabby Heiser with 34 goals. You got Jaden Yurkowski with 28. Sophie Boline with 14. forwards. I mean, obviously, you said it. You've mixed them a little bit, trying to find the perfect combinations. But this year, you've been able to find the back of the net on a fairly consistent basis, would you say?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I was a little surprised by it. You lose your leading goal scorer from last year, and obviously I knew we had a lot of talent, a lot of quality girls coming back, but scoring wasn't always, all of their forte. And I think my assistant coach, Savannah, looked at me last week at practice. She goes, "Did you know we've scored 110 goals this year?" And I was like, "What?" And I just... they've been moving the puck so well, and I think that that's where it all stems from. We have a lot of girls who, aren't always are looking to pass, aren't always looking to shoot, who are making the smart hockey play, and it's a group that on most days doesn't care who gets the credit, and they've just been playing really well. They've been moving the puck. We've preached all year, no shot's a bad shot. Take the shots when you can. Don't pass up an okay shot for what you think is going to be a better shot, because usually it's not a better shot and something else happens in those
Coaches always say
5
there's
seconds.
never a bad shot, right?
Exactly. So, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little surprised by the amount of goals we've been putting up. I mean, even our D have been, doing a good job scoring. They've been doing a really good job moving the puck. And Gabby and Jaden have just played, outstanding this whole year, and the way that they've moved the puck, the way that they've played together. It's been fun to watch. It's been fun to be a part of.
You touched as well earlier about the experience on the blue line. We had Ava on the show a few weeks ago, a very impressive young lady. Also had Gabby earlier in the season as well. But you have to feel really good having experience on the blue line, especially when you have the two freshman goalies to have those upperclassmen there. Talk a little bit about your defensemen and who's stood out for you as well.
Yeah, I think all of them. They're all... we have 4D that we roll through, and all 4 are seniors. And, we made the move about halfway through the year to move Sophie Boleen back to D. And I couldn't ask for better kids. Honestly, I couldn't. And they're all different. They all play different. But they're all so solid. Taylor Friedel is so solid on the blue line. You just know what you're going to get every single day. Ava Rhodey, even Michaela and Sophie are on any team. They're the best kid on the team. They're probably, 3 of the top 7, 8 D across the state. And when you can look at your blue line, especially, having the freshman goalies, but just knowing that that's who you have back there and that you can trust them, it gives us an opportunity to be able to hold the zone on other teams a lot. We don't give up the blue line a lot. We don't give up our zone a lot. We're able to close the gap a little bit better. We're able to really stand other teams up at the red line, at the blue line. And just even in terms of breaking the puck out, when you have 4 seniors back there, they don't panic. They take their time. They're all such quality hockey players, but they take their time. They take what's given to them. And, when you're nitpicking with them, it's little things here and there throughout the season. And I'm not saying that we don't ever harp on them, because, we definitely do here and there. But, it's little things. It's just a little way to make their game better. But, I would take our 4D, against anyone in the state.
And obviously your team's doing really well, and you got great things coming here and looking forward to at the end of the season. Is there still anything on your self-evaluation of your team that, with the amount of season you want to play, you want to get that state championships, you still want to be playing as long as you possibly can, something that you want to see them do a little better of, because you're like, we need to be a little more consistent on this down the stretch?
I'm probably going to contradict myself a little bit here, but I would like us to see us be a little more aggressive, just in terms of kind of giving up the blue line and things like that. I think we do a really good job in it, but I think it's something that we can be even a little bit better at. I think our penalty kill has been pretty strong throughout the year, but I still think that there's some room for improvement there. We have been fortunate enough to have solid penalty killers where we've gotten some shorthanded goals, and sometimes we're able to kind of turn it into some pressure that we can create. Sometimes we forget maybe we're on the penalty kill because we are still able, sometimes to generate offense and things like that. So, against some of these teams that we're going to see down the stretch, just being more disciplined kind of on the penalty kill, being a little bit more disciplined in our D zone, and making sure that we're not making the extra move just because sometimes we can. When we face Green Bay, when we face Superior or Hayward or, whoever we're going to see down the stretch, we need to just sometimes lock in a little bit more and be a little bit more disciplined just in the things that we do.
I'm always amazed at when you hear all the successes of the Central Wisconsin Storm, and yet I think it would just be harder than having all kids out of one school. You know what I mean? They have to come together. You don't get to spend the whole school day. They're not goofing around in class together. Do you have to do anything extra to bridge that gap because it's a co-op and they're from a handful of different schools?
I think absolutely we do, and I think that the girls do a good job of it on their own. I mean, a lot of them get to play together, if they're playing youth growing up or sometimes on a selects team or a Team Wisconsin or things like that. But you can kind of tell throughout the season it takes just a little bit longer to kind of get into some of those rhythms. And I harp on them sometimes about, getting on the ice early for practice if we can get on, especially at Marathon Park. But these girls are all chit-chatting in the locker room, but they don't get to see each other all day at school. They didn't see so-and-so at lunch. They didn't see so-and-so in the hallway. And maybe so-and-so had a good day or a bad day that they want to tell their friend about. So it's different. It's a different dynamic, and it just takes a little bit of getting used to, and we begin our season with an overnight at the school forest, which I think has become kind of, a favorite thing for the girls. But I think that's something right away from the beginning of the season. We do the overnight and we, break them up. And we do a lot of team building activities. We do a lot of goal setting. And then we do some fun things like some minute-to-win-it games and, some other fun things like that. But it's a kind of a chance for them to get to know each other a little bit more because, yes, they don't all go to school together. And then you have freshmen coming in that are, different schools and that the seniors or juniors might not, know them at all. So it's definitely a little bit of a different dynamic, and I don't know that I have the perfect recipe for bringing them all together, but they seem to do a good job of it on their own. It just seems to kind of take a little bit more time to get all that going.
I know coaches never like to look ahead. I know you have a game tomorrow, makeup game against Medford, but since I'm not going to be there, it almost doesn't count. I'll be over in Green Bay on Saturday night, and it may not be the Wisconsin Prep Hockey game of the week, but it will be our game of the week. No, the guys at Prep Hockey, I know you guys, this is about travel and all that stuff. But you do have Bay Area, and they've been number one, I think, all season long, if I'm not mistaken. You played them in the state championship game a year ago. And it's interesting. Remember last year, they came over to Greenheck and dominated you in that game. I mean, it was you took a great goaltending performance by Claire to keep you in and lost in overtime, but then you were able to come back and win in the state championship game. What do you know about this version of Bay Area? What do you expect on Saturday?
There's a reason they've been number one all year. I mean, there really is. When you look at their team from top to bottom, they're really deep. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of quality girls. They roll 3 lines. They roll 6D. They're just really deep, and every line has talent. And they didn't lose much from last year. Obviously for a team that lost in the state championship game, but I expect a good game. And you're right. They came to here last year. They kicked our butt for 3/4 of that game at least, and obviously we responded really well in the state championship game. But they have a new coach who I don't know a lot about, but I know that the people I've talked to and people that he's coached some of the girls in some spring and fall type of things throughout their hockey careers, I'll have a lot of respect for him. And, from what I know, is a really quality coach that they, were able to secure. So I know that they have like I said, a quality group of seniors, a big group of seniors, and talented juniors that it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game in their barn, this late in the season where everyone wants to be playing their best hockey and, a little state championship rematch. It took a while to get to it, but, it's a look at, what could maybe be in a couple of weeks. And we'll need to be playing our best hockey. Our goal is we've been fortunate enough to, I'd say for 95% of our games, roll 3 lines. We really have been rolling just the 4D, but we're going to need to be able to do that, to be able to play with them and keep with them for the whole game. We shortened our bench at the state tournament, and there were moments where I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, where I thought that they might be able to wear us down. So I think that's the biggest thing is with their depth, with their talent, can we, A, limit the shots, limit the quality scoring chances. Their first line is hands down probably the best line in the state. So can we shut them down? And then when we need to shut them down, who are we taking out of our game to be able to do that? So those are just, things we're all thinking about going into Saturday. And I think it'll be a great hockey game. I think it's going to be fairly evenly matched, and we'll see how it unfolds. I guess.
Seems like it's always a good one. I mean, I remember, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or things roll together.
Yeah.
Last time I went over there for a Storm Bay Area game, it was another great game. I think it was an overtime. I mean, it feels like there's always...
We played them twice last year. We went there in December, and we won in overtime.
Yes.
And then they came here for the last game of the year, and they beat us in overtime. They ended up 5-on-3. We took 2 penalties in overtime. But they had outshot us. They dominated a lot of that game, and we were coming out. We had like 3 games in a row, and it was kind of a weird end to the year.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
it was kind of, but they not any discredit to them because they definitely took
sometimes
it to us.
You need that
game.
Don't you?
Yeah, it was probably a good wake up call for us actually heading into the end of the season, and I think Saturday will be too. Whatever happens, I know that it's good for us to play a team like that right now and know where you need to be if you want to make that final run. So.
And I always find those are tough games because you're going in there, you want to play well, you want to do everything. But this was always my thoughts when we had we could see somebody so quick again. Do I keep anything back? Do I have to throw my whole
it's
handout?
It's like you're reading my mind.
Do I throw the whole handout at him? I saw that. I better remember that because I might want to put that wrinkle in the next time. It's just as much fun as it is, and you want to get that W because it sends a message. It's like, what do you come out of there? How much rethinking and analyzing? So I don't know. Do you take the approach from your coaching philosophy that we're just going to do what we got to do to play our best brand of hockey, and I'll figure that type out, or I'm going to see how the game plays out. Am I going to hold a little something back, or I've got something on the back burner that they've never seen all season long, or we're going to throw it at them the next? I mean, how do you analyze that? Your coaching style.
It's like you're in my mind for the last. I mean, I was thinking that last Saturday before the Superior game too. Of we could see them again so quick, but we had a lot more on the line with the number 1 seed and again Saturday we still do too. If we were to make it to state, if they're to make it to state, that's the number 1 seed at the state tournament on the line too, which given the brackets and the teams that could make it, that number 1 seed is would be a good spot to be sitting in, kind of like it was last year. So, my game plan is we're going to see how it plays out. I think for the most part, stick to our game plan. I want to run 3 lines. I want to see how far we can get with doing that, how deep they are, and if all 3 of our lines can compete with all 3 of their lines. They're going to have last line change because we're in their rink. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if they're trying to match their lines with us or how that's going to work. So there'll be some gamesmanship, I'm sure. And I'm not going to throw anything crazy out there on Saturday, but I'm also hoping that if I need to learn something, to throw something crazy out down the road, then we'll know that too.
Yeah, and the good news is that coach is in the same boat too, probably thinking the same exact stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And finally, this group of seniors especially has won 2 state championships. And it was funny when Ava was here, and I asked her what game does she remember most. It was the one they lost to Hayward. So often that's the case where, as wonderful as winning, sometimes losing hurts even more. Do you think this group is getting excited? Do you feel that after the brackets came out and now that it's almost playoff time? Do you sense that, putting on that business suit and ready to get to work?
Yeah, I do. I given them a hard time. We played Eau Claire and we went into overtime with Eau Claire, and Hayward had lost to Eau Claire earlier in the year, which was a pretty big upset. And Eau Claire played us really tough and we outshot them by a lot, but we were going into overtime, and I looked at the girls and I said, there is a Tuesday night trip to Hayward on the line right now, just so you know. And it's something we've talked about. The 3 of us at the top of our section are so close, and you don't want to go to Hayward on a Tuesday night. The sectional finals in Superior, and that's going to be bad enough. But that home ice advantage and those bus trips, they wear on you, and they're a lot. And so I could feel it after we beat Superior. Madeline Kelter looked at me across the locker room and she said, "Does this mean we don't have to go to Hayward on a Tuesday night, Coach?" And I said, "Sure does, kid." So I feel like they're ready. I really feel like they've played well the last couple weeks. They were ready for that Superior game, and like I said, part of that was me as a coach realizing how they need to be ready, and how I expect them to get ready isn't necessarily, I don't think, how this group does it and does it well. And so I think we all learned something last week. But they seem ready. They seem excited. They've been, good attitude, showed up. They've been working hard, and they have big goals. So I think they're ready for them.
Well, best of luck. I look forward to seeing your team on Saturday and look forward to the run after that. But thanks again. And it does sound like the voice is coming back.
It's coming
there
back.
You
I'm
go.
getting there slowly but
go.
surely. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Jana Wimmer, the Central Wisconsin Storm. We'll be right back. Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO.
A recap from the Deer District Prep Showcase, plus more hoops action from the weekend. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. The inaugural Deer District Prep Showcase was held over the weekend at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, with thousands in attendance throughout the day for some big game action. Sporting a state tournament feel, the first game of the day proved to be the best. Kohler led most of the way against Lake Mills, only to see the L-Cats come back to tie the game with 5.8 seconds remaining. Kohler didn't panic, pushing the ball up the court quickly, with Max Breitenbach catching and shooting at the buzzer to lift the Blue Bombers to a thrilling 63-61 win. Hortonville controlled things throughout in the following game, defeating Oconomowoc 74-60. Racine Park was too deep and too tenacious for Milwaukee Juneau, winning 70-55 behind 16 points and 16 rebounds by Jackson Moss. Stevens Point held off a late push from Sun Prairie East to win 79-73. In the most anticipated game of the day, Kettle Moraine remained undefeated with a 73-62 win over Nicolay in a matchup of teams that qualified for last season's state tournament. Roman Thompson poured in an event-high 34 points for the Lasers. In other action from the weekend, Division II top-ranked Slinger went down in a North Shore Conference battle with Homestead, 74-64. Division I number 1 Wisconsin Lutheran was pushed hard on Saturday, but scored a 45-44 win over Neenah, behind 23 points from Xavier Zenz. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO. Got just a few moments here before the top of the hour, along with Jeff Gress. I mean, you can talk hockey. Coaching is universal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the same thought process. It's about connections with the kids, getting them to connect with each other, getting the best efforts out of them, getting to realize what the coaches and the players and the whole program think they can accomplish, and trying to make that a reality through how you practice and the efforts that you put in, and how you got to do it together with doing things to the best of your ability as often as you can. So I think it doesn't matter what sport it's in. I like the discussion though you just had off air on rink size and getting to pick that home court, because I think that is an interesting topic where you don't have that in a lot of other sports. You're just going to it's standard sized basketball court. It is for.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, presented by K5 Construction. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Normally, now we'd have our student athlete guest, but they had a late postponement and not able to pick anyone else up. So we'll try to make good on it before the end of the season, but just more Jeff Gress. So that's the way we like it.
It's a tough selling point. You keep saying that people might be turning the radio
By
off.
the way, before we get back into the boys basketball, make sure everybody tunes in on Friday, because if you like what you get tonight, we are doing a
Valentine's Day special.
Girls-boys basketball doubleheader on Valentine's Day. We will be over at Marathon on Friday night, as it's both I think the boys play first, if I'm not mistaken. I got to double check this. But Marathon Red Raiders, the boys first, and then the girls as they take on the Phillips Loggers. So that's a pretty good crossover doubleheader.
It is.
But the thing about it is, normally I would be doing the game. If you tune in, you'll hear me, and I talk all the time. But on Friday night, Jeff Gress will be there as my color commentator.
So if you have nothing to do on Valentine's Day and you want to spend the Valentine's Day with Chad and I, just turn the radio on. I think that's a good selling point.
5:20 pregame, 5:30 for the tip. For the first game, the boys, I think it's the boys. Again, I got to double check that. And then we'll have the girls right after that. So it should be a fun one, Marathon and Phillips. I know you're looking forward to it.
I am. It is fun. I enjoy when we get to talk sports. It's just the different dynamics of it, and in a different atmosphere. And we did the one. This was a while ago.
Northern
Luther, Wisconsin. And even
the,
though that
late
wasn't a
great
huge
Wisconsin
game,
Valley Lutheran.
yeah, but it was still fun.
Yes, it was.
It's cool. So I appreciate the invite and appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, we were not quite through with the boys basketball where we stand right now. CWC East still undefeated is Bondwell, both in the conference, 11-0, and overall at 19-0. Whitburn is 10-1 in the league, 16-3 overall. Iola having a good year, 8-3 in the conference, 14-5 overall. Shiocton 6-5 in league, 10-9 overall. Menominee Nation 4-7 in conference, 11-9 overall. Wyowega Fremont 3-8 and 6-13. Amherst and Manawa struggling, 1-10 in the conference, 6-14 for Amherst, 6-13 for Manawa. And Friday night, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood had a little bit of a struggle with Amherst, winning 60-51. Jet Rogowski had 29 points in that game. Bondwell, one of the closer games they've had in conference, beat Shiocton 85-75. And Wyowega beat Manawa 49-43, and Iola over Menominee Nation 67-49. But and then Whitburn had that loss to West, as we talked about earlier in non-conference. But Bondwell still undefeated, but still just one game ahead of Whitburn.
And I think for Wittenberg, they're just keeping pace. They got the win over Amherst. I think somewhere in there they might have beat, I can't remember if it was Edgar. They played Amherst again, but they had another nice win in that game. And then for Monday night, West is a good basketball team, and they're going to get after you defensively. So I think for Wittenberg to get to play against a good Valley opponent, in terms of playing Wausau West last night, and to have to take them on in their home court atmosphere was probably a lot of fun. And I think they're going to probably be they've scored more points than 36 a lot of nights. So I think they're going to be looking to prove themselves. And as we'll talk about in the upcoming segments, they got a big one on Thursday.
CWC North, Tigerton 7-0, 17-1, having a very fine season. Northland 6-2, 10-7. White Lake 5-2, 10-6. Boulder 2-4 in the conference. Gresham 1-5. Marion 0-8. And for Northern Lutheran, not a bad week. Friday night, they defeated Marion 59-32. Andrew Wickman, who was a guest early in the season, had 20 points in that game. Andrew Boline 12 as well for Northland. And then last night, they beat Faith Christian by a score of 88-35. So good for Northland as they still fighting. But Tigerton, is that you said that the old Pittsville coach is there?
Yeah, Coach Danoff has been there the last couple of years, and I think I thought Tigerton won the conference last year, and he's continuing the stretch where he's really.
Was Pittsville in the league when you were coaching?
Yes, they were in the Merriwood. So he was. That was the only thing. I think Coach Hoffa was the only coach when I started out. I looked a little older then, so we both looked pretty baby faced, and he looked just a tad bit younger than I did.
And yet he's returned.
Yes, he's having fun still back at Tigerton, doing an outstanding. I mean, at 17-1 mark, and probably might have enough to take that conference now because Northern Lutheran's 2 games back, and I know Tigerton, I think, has beat them twice. So I think they're owning that conference. But also nice to see, I like to see schools evolve a little bit. So for Faith Christian Academy of Wausau to start getting in some games and playing some of the area teams, we'll see where that goes. I think that's always good to see a program get started, try to get some WIA affiliation, start to thrive.
And real quickly, I think it's good for the school to offer basketball and athletics and theater and all the other stuff that's important to a school. And it'll be a process,
Yep.
but and obviously they're having some issues, wins and losses, but at the same time, I think it's something that's not just for sports, but I think for the school itself.
Yeah, it's that sense of pride and that sense of community, and I think sports it gives kids another opportunity to do well at something and something that will be a markable memory on the rest of their lives. And at the same time, it's for administration and people to put these things in process to try to get to be part of something, whether it's join the WIA, get in a conference eventually. It's a process. It takes some time. So good for them to put their efforts forth to that, and good for that school to have a team.
Girls, Wisconsin Valley Conference, Stevens Point, still rolling. 10-0 in the conference, 17-4 overall. Marshfield 7-2, 11-10. Wausau West, Rapids and Everest in a battle for third. Warriors 5-5 in conference. Rapids and Everest both 4-5. Merrill 1-8, and East is still looking for that first win. The big one was last night, and Stevens Point beating Marshfield 67-46. Jada Seibert, boy. She is so good. I mean, she really is. She's only a sophomore, and she steps up every night. 30 points last night. Haley Klum, 12 for Marshfield. But and she had 25 in the win against Merrill last Thursday as well, Jada Seibert. But that was an impressive win because Marshfield had been playing, I think, actually better basketball than the first time these teams met.
Right. And for Spash, overall record 17-4, unblemished in the conference. I think just it shows that they are the overall number one. And then I think I agree with you. Marshfield is playing better basketball in the games that we've seen them in recently in the second half of the season. But I still think just Spash, sole commander of that conference, and I think so much rolls. You've seen her play live. You talk about how good that
as a
Seibert,
freshman last night. I wish I could see her this year.
Well, and I saw on the previews or on the sports last night, that's who it showed. She takes it to the basket so fluently. She's got a nice jump shot, and that team doesn't get any older because another girl that's always in the highlights is I don't know her first name, but it's Aoi.
Leah.
Yep, and she's only a freshman. And she's putting up points.
Yeah, she had 14 in the game against Merrill on Thursday night. You're exactly right.
So it doesn't get any graduation doesn't hinder Spash here. They're going to continue to be around for the next couple of years.
You had Wausau West winning the last 2 nights, and good for the Warriors. 64-53 against Chippewa Falls Monday. Ayla Christensen 15, Iris Walvogel and Olivia Colwell 12, Paige Anderson 11, and then last night made it back-to-back, 80-44 over Wausau East. Paige Anderson had 19, Ayla Christensen 16, and Harper Mead 14. And again, it's quite a battle there between West, Rapids, and Everest. And it's interesting that Everest swept West swept Rapids, and I can't remember who won the game between Rapids. I think Rapids beat Everest too. Yeah. But these teams are kind of beating up on each other, and in the end, they're basically all around 500.
Yeah, they still have similar records right there. I think for West, just to develop, because as we've looked at the scores throughout the year, there's just been inconsistencies, which shows that 8-15 mark and kind of surviving in the conference at 6-5. So I think, right now, again, as coaches, you want to get as many W's as you can down the stretch, not only for seeding purposes, but as to build that confidence so teams are trying to get as ready as they can offensively and defensively by peaking at the right time. And so you're trying to get your team and you want to feel comfortable as a coach getting them in the right spot as they make their run down the season to get the highest success rate that you can out of the end of that season, whether it's a couple playoff wins, whether it's just getting one playoff win, whatever it may be that you think is a markable measurement. And then any extra surprises along the way is good. So I think for West, Everest, those two teams in particular, just looking to continue to build on some of these recent games that they've played, especially Everest being new coach and kind of creeping up the ways of the valley, getting in the middle of the pack. I think that's a big growth spurt from where they were at the bottom feeders last
And frankly,
season.
that Everest win at West last Thursday was impressive. I mean, because we had seen Everest kind of struggle a little bit. Yeah. But they were able to get the offense going and win rather easily, 56-41, and they had 3 players in double figures. Alyssa Chmielewski, 16, Kirsten Hall, 15, McKenna Bullis, 13. And again, that's one of the programs I'm curious to see develop in the next few years, because I do think Coach Bullis is, and I've talked to the AD, Mike Matthews, at the hockey last weekend, and I think he's, like what he's seen, and he obviously knows it. He's been around that program as well. But I do think that Everest is going to be a program that rises in girls basketball, and I think that'll be good for the conference.
Right. I think good for the conference, good for the school, good for our area again, because you want to see these teams continually get better, and especially when that's what you want each year. Is when you start your first year, you want some measurable growth from where the program was at. Then you want to take it and build it again a little bit more. And coaches, players, programs get to decide what that measurable growth is. But that you want to keep seeing them get better. And for some of the stats you rattle off with those girls putting the ball in the basket, I think that's a big deal to hit those double digits, because so often their averages are a little bit below that at 8, 9. And I think they're going to hop out and test themselves. They got Mosinee. I think that's a big game to say, where have we come from the beginning of the year to the end of the year with how we play against Mosinee a little bit, something measurable there.
Speaking of Mosinee, GNC girls, we got Lakeland 11-0, 18-4 overall. Mosinee 8-2, 14-5. Rhinelander 7-3, 12-9. Medford 5-5 in league, 10-11 overall. Tomahawk 4-6, 11-10 overall. Pines 1-9 and 5-16. Antigo 0-11, 2-17. Again, in this, I think it was Great Northern earlier on the boys' side.
Did you say the same thing?
Yeah, basically the same thing here. That not a lot of competitive games. Big performances. Lakeland put up 100 against Pines Friday, 100-31. Christina Wilmette, 33. Eva Evenhouse, 12. Sailor Timurin, 10 points, 13 boards. And then Wilmette with 26 in the 65-21 win over Tomahawk. Mosinee also winning big, 86-24 over Antigo, and beating Pines 75-36. Rhinelander beat Tomahawk 52-32, but then in a non-conference game, lost to Shawano 52-23. And right now, I'm looking at the top of this league. Lakeland and Mosinee, they're building towards the playoffs. Rhinelander with the big injury, they're scuffling a little bit.
Well, and then we've talked about some other teams already. When you take some of those key scorers out, it goes into survival mode, or you have to totally find something to replace it if it's season ending in any way. And I don't know.
He's been out for a while.
Yeah, so we don't really know Clark's status, but that's a big chunk of the keys to their success with 22 points a game. So I think, obviously Mosinee can't catch Lakeland, but they're continuing to build 14-5 mark, and they're having some continued success as we go down the stretch here, and I know Lakeland wants that final push in Wilmette's senior season.
Marywood South, Assumption 14-0, 20-1 overall. Stratford still playing very well, 12-2, 17-4 overall. Auburndale right there at 11-3, 17-4 overall. Marathon 9-5, 16-5 overall. Edgar 3-11, 7-15. Newman 2-12, 3-17. Big road win for Stratford last Thursday, winning at Marathon 46-39. Carly Pankratz 22, Miley Halkey 19. Pankratz 22 for the Tigers, Halkey 19 for the Raiders. Marathon bounced back Friday with a win against Abbey 56-38. Halkey 16, Kyla Heisey 13. Stratford played again Friday as well, beating Shawamigan by a score of 65-21. And then last night, another win for Stratford, 64-24 over Newman. And Assumption beat Marathon last night, 72-41. Some balanced scoring for Assumption. Anna Schooley, 17 points, 4 Royals in double figures. And Auburndale continuing their winning ways as well. They had beat Prentice in the crossover Friday and then knocked off Edgar last night as well. So I would say for Assumption, Stratford, and Auburndale, all good weeks. For Marathon, I wouldn't call it a bad week because, again, Stratford is so good, Assumption is so good, but it just shows, I think, Marathon, the thing that jumps out about Marathon really quickly, every game they're supposed to win, they've won. And that says something because that's not easy to do. It sounds easy to do, but the only 5 losses are against the creme de la creme of that conference.
Right. They're taking their hits from teams that are up above them, maybe have, like Assumption has a 20-1 mark, 14 overall, so they lost to Assumption twice. That's kind of expected. You're kind of going in there to see what your team's made of and maybe things you can tweak as the season goes on, with the expectation you're going to try to win the game, but at the same time, you're playing a very good basketball team. I thought, Stratford had a good solid week. They won every game that they were supposed to win, and continues to that 17-4 mark, 12-2. Not going to catch Assumption probably. The Assumptions just dominated everybody, and you can see that happens point-wise. Auburndale continues to be steady and roll through the teams that they're versing, and I think, like I said, Marathon, again, take it from last season to this season, they've just played much better basketball, and it showed up in the scores, it shows up in their overall record, it shows up where they're sitting at in the conference, and looking to see what they can do early, obviously this Friday, but as well as early on in the playoffs. I think they're a formidable foe. They play very competitively, and they can sneak up on teams, and maybe looking to push through that one that, there's going to be that game you're not supposed to get. And can you get through that a little bit through all these trial and errors that you've had throughout the season?
Merriwood North, Phillips, who we'll see on Friday, is in first place at 11-3, 17-5 overall. Rib Lake 8-5, 11-8. Prentice 6-8 in conference, 9-12. Abbotsford 4-9, 4-15. Athens 2-12, 2-17. Shawamigan 1-13, 3-18. But Phillips doing well this past week, beating Shawamigan on Monday, beating Abbotsford on Tuesday. And they're always an entertaining team to watch. And I think that would be a fun one to see them against Marathon on Friday.
I liked last year when I saw them play at Newman, the pace that they played at. That was enjoyable. I mean, I like my favorite version of basketball is getting up and down the floor and pushing the ball and pressing, and they did that. And I really like the way those girls got out in the open, looked for each other, made the extra pass when they had to. So I think that'll be an exciting brand of basketball. But again, the continued success up for that team in the Northwoods, it's there. I mean, they have Rib Lake coming up, and I think they have the conference. They win that hands down. It's theirs. They should. But I think we'll see some a little bit of taste of that. And on the other side of that, I think that's a good game for Marathon. We've talked about for Phillips to see if they can you get this one. They're at the top of the conference. Yep. Maybe because they're at the top of the Merriwood North, they're considered to be a little bit better basketball team. You go squeeze that one out. I think you got continued stuff to build on for Coach Snyder and his ladies at Marathon.
CWC East, Whitburn still perfect. 12-0 in the conference, 20-0 overall. Bondoel right there, 11-1, 17-4. Wyowega Fremont 7-5. Menominee Nation 6-6. Amherst 4-8. Iola Scandinavia and Shiocton 3-9. Manoa 2-10. Whitburn just doing Whitburn things. Started Thursday 56-29 against Amherst. Rory Salveson 16. Milena Granquist 13. Then on Monday, Whitburn beating Oconto 59-34. This time it's Granquist leading the way with 18 points and 10 rebounds. Rory Salveson had 17, and then Amherst had the unenviable task of seeing Whitburn again last night, this time at Amherst, but it didn't matter to the Chargers as they beat Amherst 57-20. Salveson 18, Granquist 16 points, 10 rebounds. And, of course, Bondoel, they stay right behind. They beat Shiocton Friday 62-23. Friday night.
Impressive.
I tell you. If I wasn't working, I would drive to Bondoel to watch that game.
It's going to be fun. I mean, can you imagine? It's just going to be packed.
I would think so. And Bondoel against the undefeated Chargers. I mean,
it's what it's waiting for.
That
for that conference. I mean, that's for the conference either to win it outright or for the other group to tie. But Wittenberg, you gotta just credit where credit's due. To be 20-0 at this point in the season, you usually, for some reason, have a hiccup. I remember they didn't have a lot of hiccups last year, and they only did because they had some injuries, and you can't control that. And what a interesting 1-2 punch. Every time you read the stats on these girls, one time it's Salveson, the next time it's Granquist. And we've even heard other numbers where they're getting some double digits out of the other players on the team. So that just shows the level of completeness that this team is. And so I'm hoping they do some things in playoffs, bust through there. I know they were a little bit injury-ridden at the end of last season where they ran out of a little gas, so to speak, because of that. So it looks like firing on all cylinders, but I just love the fact that you have that big game on Friday at Bondo. That's what you want. That's players. I know there's pressure there. I know everybody gets a little worried, but it's just this is what high school sports is about. Those type of environments that is why it's all worthwhile to go out and watch that stuff.
We're going to take a quick timeout and then talk about the hockey brackets. Some area teams got some good seeds, and the playoffs begin on Tuesday. So we'll talk about that coming up next here on the Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
Hello there, this is James,
Melissa,
Chad,
and Seth, inviting you to come work with us. Civic Media is looking for a full-time sales professional to work with existing and new broadcast and digital media clients.
we're a fast-growing company that offers competitive wages, benefits, a relaxed working environment that focuses on quality of life and includes a team of support to reach our shared goals.
Join us in continuing what we have done for 80 years. Be a part of the community, put into the community, celebrate community.
Find out more by contacting Chuck Gennaro at 715-935-8030 or email chuck.gennaro@civicmedia.us. All inquiries are confidential. Civic Media Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer, and we look forward to you joining us.
Hey Wisconsin, it's construction season, and the Wisconsin DOT wants to help you safely navigate work zones. Check 511wi.gov or download the app for road work or closures on your route. Know before you go with 511 Wisconsin, sponsored by the Wisconsin DOT.
K5 Construction is a family-owned and operated builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It's always great this time of year because every Sunday you get ready to get some brackets. Right. The first week is the hockey brackets. This week there'll be a show actually on television for the girls basketball brackets, and then next weekend it will be the boys basketball brackets. But hockey brackets have come out. First of all, just to recap, the Wisconsin Valley Conference hockey season came to an end last night. Stevens Point finished off a perfect year, 10-0 in the conference. They're still perfect overall. Beat Marshfield 14-1 last night. Also, Wausau West defeated Wisconsin Rapids 6-2. That meant Wausau West finishes second at 8-2. DC Everest third at 6-4. Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln 4-6. EMU, East Merrill United 2-8. Marshfield 0-10. The thing that kind of jumped out about the Valley in hockey this year, everybody beat everybody below them, swept them, and got swept by the team above them. So Stevens Point 10-0, they swept the 5 teams below them. West 8-2, they lost twice to Stevens Point, they swept everybody else. DC Everest, they were 6-4, they lost twice to West, they lost twice to Stevens Point. Every team. I mean,
that's weird.
It is.
It's odd.
You don't see that very often.
No, that it could work out that precisely.
You usually see at least one game or one team
shows consistency on those teams that are winning and shows that there's a next level up on each team.
But let's look at the brackets. Starting off in Division 1, talk about the bracket that our area teams are in. And Stevens Point, as expected, perfect on the year. They did everything they needed to do. They're the number 1 seed in sectional number 1, so they get a first-round bye. They will play a week from tomorrow in a regional final against the winner of Tuesday night's game between number 9 seeded Eau Claire North and number 8 seeded Chippewa Falls. Also part of that bracket, EMU, East Merrill United, and I should say, you being a Newman guy, East Merrill Newman Catholic, right, because they do have a player.
Corbin?
No, I thought it was somebody else.
I'm not 100% on that. I remember who used to play hockey in middle school.
Owen Reeves. So.
Yes.
Owen Reeves, yep. From Newman Catholic, so part of the Blue Jacks. But they are number 12 seed. They will be at number 5 seeded Eau Claire Memorial in their first playoff game next Tuesday. The winner of that game will move on to play the winner of the game between number 13 seeded Marshfield and number 4 seeded Hudson. And then the bottom of the bracket, Wausau West earned a number 2 seed. And I don't think people thought they were going to be a number 2 when the season started. It was a very good season for the Warriors in the regular season. Number 2 seed, a first-round bye. So the Warriors will be hosting a regional final a week from tomorrow. They'll wait to see who wins the game between number 7 Superior and number 10 Thomas Sparta. And if it's Superior, they're always tough. And I saw them early in the year. West played them Thanksgiving weekend, second game of the season. And they got like 14 seniors. They're big, they're experienced, they're tested because they play a lot of Minnesota teams. So that would be a 7-2. That would be a very interesting game. But West playing very well, and they beat Superior the first time and played very well in that game. Also part of the bracket, number 6 seed DC Everest. They will host number 11 seeded Wisconsin Rapids Tuesday night at Green Heck. The winner moves on to face number 3 seeded New Richmond a week from Thursday. So regionals next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Sectional semifinals on February the 25th. And the sectional championship game scheduled to be played in Superior on March the 1st. The thought is that if it's, say, West and Stevens Point, maybe won't make everybody go up to Superior. But
so all the brackets you read right there were those fair seedings on what you think you saw, what you've witnessed? Did anybody, like you said, Wes, a little surprised at too? Is there anything that, surprised in a good way, but is there anything that jumps out that?
Well, I think DC Everest being number 6 this year, that says a lot for the conference, because normally they've been around 8. They've been behind teams like Chippewa Falls and Superior. I know that it was tight between Everest and Superior for 6 and 7, but Everest played well, even in their losses against West and Stevens Point. In fact, should have mentioned last Thursday, we had a great game at Marathon Park. Everest took West to overtime, and West won it in OT 2-1. But I think the fact that they took West to OT gave them that little bit of extra, because also Superior had a bad loss against Eau Claire North. Otherwise, I think it would have been Everest being the number 7 and perhaps coming back to Marathon Park, which I'm happy that's not going to happen, because they always play so well at Marathon Park. That's one of the weird things. West plays much better on that big ice sheet at Green Heck. They have the Olympic size, big ice sheet. And Everest plays much better on the smaller ice sheet at Marathon Park. And that's, again, one of the things about hockey that is interesting. Division 2. The Great Northern Conference basically has a full bracket, almost. Mosinee is a number 2 seed. They will take on number 7 seeded Medford in a regional final coming up on next week Thursday. Winner will play either number 3 seeded Lakeland or number 6 seeded Shawano-Bonduelle. Shawano-Bonduelle, the only non-Great Northern Conference school in this bracket. Top half of the bracket, number 1 seed is Tomahawk. They take on number 8 seeded Rhinelander. And then there's number 4 Northern Pines against number 5 Antigo. And interesting, on Saturday of this week, the championship game of the Great Northern Conference tournament has Tomahawk and Mosinee. So they play on Saturday up in Rhinelander. And they could play again in a sectional final, which would be played in Mosinee. And it'll be the second year in a row that Tomahawk is the number 1 seed and might have to play at Mosinee in a sectional final. Which annoys people, I'm sure.
Well, right.
But the thing is, sectional finals are always, schools have to put in.
Yeah, they have to host for it, put in for it. Going to the Great Northern Conference, let's say you're commissioner of that conference.
I hate the conference tournament.
That's what I was going to ask.
I hate it.
Would you do away with, because now, correct me if I'm wrong, because now you have a potential to see it. You've seen a team possibly twice in the regular season. You could see them in the conference tournament.
Actually, they do it a little differently. They only play once in the regular season.
Okay, so it can only be a max of 3 with the playoffs.
And I hate not having a home and home.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything the guys at Wisconsin Prep Hockey do, but they love the tournaments. They love these conference tournaments. And I disagree vehemently with that idea. I would not want to have taken away last Thursday's Everest-West game or the second meeting between West and Stevens Point to have some sort of conference tournament.
Is the conference tournament for the conference championship?
I don't even know.
Because
to be honest with you,
that wouldn't be right either. If you play consistently, and let's say you're the first place team, and let's say the second place team plays a little better and knocks you off in that conference, you don't deserve to be a conference champ. I was just curious.
I
the purpose of it is
I don't know
what
if
eludes me.
Yeah, I don't even know if these count in the conference standings or what. And it's hard to find brackets. I mean, it's like if you're going to do it, at least let us know what's going on.
Right. That's what it says. What's the purpose of it?
Exactly. And then on the girls' side, in Sectional 1, Central Wisconsin Storm, number 1 seed. They will get a first-round bye. They will be in a sectional semifinal on Tuesday, February the 25th against either the Wisconsin Valley Union, which is the Stevens Point co-op, or Northern Pines. Bottom of the bracket, Superior, number 2 seed. They will wait for the winner of next week's Thursday's game between 3rd-seeded Hayward and number 6 Medford. And as we talked with the coach, number 1 seed was on the line Saturday. That was a true big game where Superior and the Storm, number 1. Whoever would win that game was be the number 1 seed. And it is important because, as Coach said, the 2, 3, and 4 ranked teams in the state playing Hayward in the sectional semifinal or playing, say, Wisconsin Valley Union, 2 completely different kinds of games. So a big, big win Saturday to be the number 1 seed for the Storm.
Well, and that's the great part about high school athletics and a specific sport in general in hockey is seeing these opportunities where these high school athletes have chances to step up, making the most of it, taking the bull by the horns, so to speak, and running with it because there's a lot at stake. That's what that's about. And then obviously the Central Wisconsin Storm did that because there was a lot. And what I liked about what Coach Wimmer shared was that sometimes you got to know your team, and it might be against your judgment or who you are as a coach to let them get to the point they need to get to, and you roll with it because of your connections with those athletes and what you truly believe is best for them. But it's hard to change that. And she said she's done that on a couple of occasions. And one was with how they handled the anxiety going into the game and why they were tense and how we're going to make them untense, even though it's not normally what I would do. It showed. They got the win. The girls stepped up, and now they're sitting in a nice spot.
And as the regular season wraps up in high school hockey this weekend, the final games are on Saturday. Got 2 really good ones. Tomorrow night, Wausau West, number 5 ranked team in the state, will travel to number 3 ranked Nina Hortonville-Menasha, a really good test to launch into the postseason. 6:50 airtime right here on 98.9 WXCO. And then on Saturday night, number 1 versus number 2, Storm and the Bay Area Ice Bears. Again, it was a fantastic state championship game last season between those two. Could be happening again. Saturday night, a little bit of a later start. Yes, I'll just party afterwards. 7:20 airtime, 7:30 face-off from Ashwaubenon. So hopefully you can join us for those 2 games. And, of course, join us for the 2 games, the big games on Friday between Marathon and Phillips with Jeff Gress as my color commentator. And we're going to talk about those big games and other big basketball games coming up next. We're going to take a quick timeout and be right back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction, 98.9 WXCO.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction, 98.9 WXCO. Time to look ahead. And again, getting to the end of the regular season, conference titles on the line. And of course, you want to get these wins because get as much good information into that computer before the seedings come out. The girls' basketball seedings coming up this weekend, and the boys just over a week and a half from now. So obviously, every game counts the same, but going down the stretch, you want to be playing your best ball, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You want to be as healthy as you possibly can be, and you want your kids as a collective group peaking at the right time, both offensively and defensively, and now's the time to do it. And like I think every game matters because you don't want to stub your toe on any of these games. You're trying to get as many W's as you can, continuing to improve in the areas that you need to finish the season out strong to roll into the playoffs.
Let's look at games in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. It's interesting because you got a mixture of conference games, non-conference games. Tomorrow night, conference games, and Thursday night. I don't know why they're playing on Thursday, not Friday, but that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Fridays are more fun. But
I know. It's like, but East and West at the Field House tomorrow night. Stevens Point and Marchfield, another. I mean, this one really has a lot of juice, I think. And then Merrill at Wisconsin Rapids. And then next Tuesday, you got Marchfield at West, another, I think, very interesting game. Everest is at Merrill, Spash at Wisconsin Rapids. But that Marshfield Spash game in Stevens Point, Marshfield is in great shape to win the conference, but the way Stevens Point has been playing, I would not be surprised at all to see Marshfield go down for the first time this year.
I'm excited. Well, and that's what you want to do as a team is probably the poster material in the locker room for Spash. Is like, let's knock one, take a game down. Nobody's taking a game away from them in the conference because Marshfield's always just either found a way to pull through or controlled the game from the get-go. So Spash is unique. They're a little different now. We gives them a whole new dimension, I think, in terms of size and some more athleticism. And it just looks like they're on the verge of between the scores they put up, the nice win down at the Pfizer Forum. They're starting to gel at another level than when we first came back. And obviously Marshfield, I've seen them play different styles. They really seem to be kind of slowing the ball down this year and getting a little more methodical in that way where they're gonna control the pace and they're gonna dictate what goes on in that game. So I think that one's an interesting makeup. East-West is always a fun one because I even when how teams are made up or who has injuries, sicknesses, who's healthy, who's playing well, it still becomes that crosstown rivalry game. And I've seen things happen over the years where somebody's not supposed to beat somebody and they do. So I think that's still going to be a war even if Nate Gesik's not back and healthy just because it means so much for the crosstown rivalry. But again, an interesting play in the game there. Those jockeying for position, trying to get one more in the book before the playoffs roll around. And I like it's interesting to me to think that they still have a little room for non-conference games. I mean, like you said, Marshfield's going to play at Chippewa Falls. They got some Saturday games.
Yeah,
they're going to play at Chippewa Falls. DC Everest has Hudson before they jump back in, and so I think who's Spash? Spash has Appleton East on Monday, right?
Yep.
So I think those are going to be some fun games to sprinkle in the mix and still go out and try to get one more for the computer.
Yeah, I mean Hudson Everest in the same bracket. Obviously, big games. Great Northern Conference. Friday, Mosinee, Tomahawk, Rhinelander, Lakeland, Medford, Pines. Those are the only conference games. And then a bunch of non-conference games on Tuesday. And again, I think the Rhinelander Lakeland game is always an interesting game, but Rhinelander obviously cannot afford to lose that one being played in Minocqua. I would say that probably is the most interesting of the conference games.
And I think Rhinelander, just looking at scores and how teams have taken them in the conference, and Rhinelander, I think Rhinelander's going to get that game. I'm still hopes that Pines can make things interesting. I mean, Medford has to go over there on Friday night, and I think that I don't know. It's probably going to be a little bit more challenging but you never know.
Actually, you're probably right. That game probably a bigger risk for Medford maybe even than Rhinelander.
Yeah, it's got a lot of weight to it, but Medford's just been, again, people talk about how they're playing so well, they're getting the scoring they need. I just want to see how this all plays out because all the other games, even the non-con, I don't know enough about those non-conference teams to even make a judgment on. So I'm thinking the one at Pines is a big deal for Medford.
And I think Pines wants to bounce back. They got kind of whooped against Mosinee.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that.
No, not at all. And they're still sitting in a spot where they're probably jockeying for, and they're unique because there's not a lot of teams in our area in that Division III. I think Pines is still Division III, so they're one of the few teams there. So jockeying for some more position because they're a little over 500 in their overall record, and another W here or two would put them a little over 500 in their conference record.
Merriwood South got a crossover Thursday, Athens and Auburndale. Then more crossovers on Friday, Phillips at Marathon. That is the big one because me and Jeff Grest will be calling that game right here on 98.9 WXCO. Rib Lake is at Stratford, Newman hosting Prentice, Shawamigan at Edgar, Abbotsford at Assumption. Pacelli and Auburndale, really an interesting non-conference game on Saturday. Another good non-conference game Tuesday, Whitburn at Marathon. Wyowega Fremont travels to Stratford, and Iola Scandinavian Edgar. So sort of a CWC East versus Merriwood Conference South crossover night on Tuesday.
Yeah, and for the crossover games, the most interesting one, just because they're both at the top of those conferences, I think it holds out that Stratford gets to not play in their gym is the one where Stratford's going to play Rib Lake. So Rib Lake's got to come down, but I think that's probably the biggest game because there's a little weight there because Rib Lake's going to have to turn around. I think they're only up 2 games in that conference, correct? So if they beat Stratford, if they lose to Stratford and lose to somebody else, that could make
they're 3 up.
Are they 3 up? Okay, then never mind. That's out. So but I like the top of the conferences to play each other. For Auburndale will beat Athens. I think Marathon Phillips could be a little interesting one just because of those dynamic where those teams sit in each side of their conference. And I think I like the crossovers though. I like the Edgar against the Iola. Marathon taking on Wittenberg will be a good one because of the way, Marathon always has that stingy defense yet. And they really know, they do a good job in their program of putting, the kids know where they're supposed to be. And if you watch them play defense, one of the things that I like about Marathon, active hands, moving feet, a lot of communication. And I think that's a big deal on how they play their team defense. And, you just saw Pacelli beat Marathon by 1. And it'll be interesting to see how they do against another Marathon or Merriwood South foe in Auburndale on Saturday. And sometimes Saturday games, I'm not always a bit. Saturday games are fun for the spectators, but the kids aren't as engaged, in my opinion, because they're not sitting in school.
Right.
And they come off that day, depends on what the coaches do. We used to get them up earlier for some shoot-arounds to get them out of bed.
CWC East, Bondwell and Whitburn tomorrow. We talked about the girls. The boys have a massive game in Wittenberg tomorrow night.
That one's going to be the last January 7th. Wittenberg lost by 20 over at Bondwell, and obviously Bondwell's 19-0 overall and 11-0 in the conference. So I think again, this is the second one. So that game, if both coaches are talking, I'm sure the Bondwell's coach is like, that one's out the door. Now we got to go over there and steal one and have our own. They get this one. They own the conference. It's done. Bondwell wins, and I'm sure Wittenberg. 2 things. They know what's at stake in that conference. And secondly, they're going to want to bounce back because I'm assuming at 36 points, they didn't have a real good offensive night against West. So they're going to do some adjustments to try to accelerate that because I'm pretty sure with the guard play that they have, that's going to be a strength is to put the ball in the basket.
And playing a game against a team that plays such good defense like Wausau West, that has to help Whitburn in this game, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Just think even their best scores, if they have to grind it out dogfight to lose a guy, got a guy hanging them on all game, the minute they come off a pick, they think they're loose. Another guy's stepping up there. They're getting banged on the rebound. So good defensive teams, it's every position on the floor. They're hanging out. They're in your face. They're helping each other out. And that's not a fun night. So I think it makes you tougher. And when you get into that next game, you want to prove something, not only because you didn't have a good offensive night, but you want to prove that you can beat good defensive teams.
And Whitburn, that Marathon game, they are testing themselves down the stretch, aren't they?
Yeah, that's going to be a good team, too, because they're not going to roll over Marathon. Marathon's another good defensive team. And I think both those teams are testing each other a little bit in a strong non-conference game Tuesday.
Girls. Good non-conference game tomorrow. Spash against Regis. Regis always a good girls basketball program. Back into the conference Friday. West and Marshfield, Spash and Rapids, Merrill and Everest. Then a bunch of non-conference games early next week. And again, look at the Valley this year. The more interesting games are sort of in the middle, because again, it's a conference that is rebuilding, I would say at this point.
Yeah, in the overall records, it shows kind of that They beat up on each other in the inside like you do in any conference, but Spash has been the only one to consistently do well against non-conference foes, and that's why they have the 17-4 mark overall. But New London's always a solid competitor.
Yeah,
Regis, so they've got to come.
Appleton, East Monday. I mean, they're playing a lot of non-conference. You said it earlier.
I'm surprised.
A lot of non-conference,
and I'm surprised that they have that many games left, because a lot of teams, when you're looking at their schedules, and I was filling all my stuff for the show, have one game left, or they could be done like by the end of that Friday may be their last game, and they're done waiting for playoffs to roll around. But Marshfield's going to get out and test themselves against Kaukauna tomorrow night. Like you said, West will have the Marshfield game Friday, and Marshfield's going back-to-back because they have Kaukauna. So it'll be interesting to see what you have. I mean, it's a good time to test yourself, but it depends on how good that Kaukauna team is. Are they going to push them? Are they going to get them up and down the floor? Are they going to physically make it difficult for the next night? And I want to see, again, we talked about kind of how Everest goes down the stretch. They have Merrill, who they always goes back and forth a little bit within their conference right now, but they have the Mosinee game on Tuesday, which I think will be an interesting one to kind of let Everest set the tone of where they stand and maybe what they've grown into throughout the season.
Yeah, speaking of Mosinee and the GNC, Friday night conference activity. Rhinelander at Lakeland. I think early in the year that would have been interesting. Right now, the way Rhinelander's playing, it's a struggle, and Christina Wilmette just racking up the big numbers almost every night. Pines and Medford, Tomahawk, Mosinee. Mosinee has a pair of non-conference games. You mentioned the game against Everest Tuesday. They have Rice Lake on Monday.
So playing some bigger schools, Wilmette, doesn't hurt to mention. I think it's pretty impressive. If the numbers are right and everything's entered in good, it's about 31 points a game. I mean, that's the average. So she's filling the take up there.
And the thing about real quickly, both Sailor Timmerman and Ava Evenhouse are both lanky, tall kids who also produce every night.
Yeah.
You see double-digit rebounds. It is a team that seems to put the pieces together. And it does feel, like I said earlier, that both Lakeland and Mosinee are kind of peaking right now. I think they both have been playing some pretty good basketball.
Yeah, it shows in that win column for them. And I think you're going to see, obviously, Lakeland's going to win this conference. That Rhinelander game, like you mentioned, is toned down a little bit just because Rhinelander's been not being able to play as consistently.
Now they're the best player.
Yeah, it just makes a difference. But still holding true at 12-9 and 7-3. And they'll probably struggle a little bit against Lakeland. Mosinee, I think those non-conference games are going to be good. You're playing Rice Lake, who's the same size school. I think I have to check the brackets, but I think eventually they would have to go through them. I think for me. Bring my mic closer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When you back away,
I
think
sorry.
you get a little too far away.
My bad. I think Rice Lake, I got to double check the brackets, but I think they have to go through them. So that'll be another good test just to see where you stand. And jumping out of the conferences late in the season on Tuesday against DC Everest will be a good one. And not much more jumps out at that conference.
Merriwood has, again, some crossovers Thursday and Friday, but and then some non-conference early next week. Assumption and Aquinas non-conference Tuesday is a big one. Any of the crossovers jump out?
No, I think Assumption's going to take Abbey. Stratford will beat Rib Lake. I'm just looking down my list. Auburndale will beat Athens. You got the Marathon Phillips one will be I think that's probably the biggest game in the crossover is the Marathon Phillips, because I think that we've talked about Coach.
Well, because you're doing the cover.
No, not at all. I think it's because it's definitely going to be a game. It's one of those games you want to go take down the conference champion on the other side and make a little bit of a statement win, because like we've mentioned, Marathon's getting the games they should. They're staying competitive in the games with the tougher opponents, but you just want to get over that hump and give your team some selling point. The Assumption, I think the Aquinas girls are good this year, because I think both them and the boys, I noticed, for Aquinas are ranked. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how Assumption does over there on Tuesday night against Aquinas. I think that's going to be a good basketball game with those two teams, even though they're different divisions.
And I guess finally the game we touched on earlier, the biggest game of maybe of all the games, went to Burnhamwood and Bondwell on the girls' side Friday night.
I'm thinking we mentioned it off air because we talk a lot of basketball, but the way Wittenberg is rolling, and it's constantly Granquist and Selva, even though I know they're a good team and there's other kids there that are contributing, because you don't get to be 20-0 if you just have 2 kids. It's just amazing to me that how those stat lines just one plays off the other, and I've never got to actually see them play, but I can only imagine it's a really good bunch of unselfish basketball, finding teams for the open shots, dishing the ball when it needs to get to somebody that might have a little bit better shot than you, and it's got to be about team defense, because they are controlling the games they're in. 20-0 at this point in the season is outstanding, and Bondwell, on the first time around, Wittenberg got him 63-40, but those records are both hanging really good, and it's all on the line, so you aren't going to leave anything to test. I think both these Bondwell-Wittenberg games for the boys and girls are going to be wars the next 2 nights.
45 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
No, I think it's just, yes. So I just said no. I mean, yes. These conference races and these games, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. There's still some good jockeying that can happen a little bit on the boys' side when you look at the Great Northern Conference. And just for some playoff implications, what teams, I want to see the Valley keep jumping around so they can step up in their playoff bracket. And, the Merriwood's still a war at the top for the Merriwood South boys.
And next week we'll have girls' playoff brackets to talk about. So it's an exciting time.
Coming fast and a lot of fun.
And join me and Jeff Friday. He's going to step out of the studio, be our color commentator, 5:20 airtime, Marathon and Phillips. Girls, boys, doubleheader right here on WXCO. So
don't plug this again, man. You're putting a lot of pressure on me to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
See you next week.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.